but you have a gas tank, and then there's a line that runs out of that, and it has fuel in it, and it's flammable. I'm like, I would have had a fire going that they would have seen in DC. So we're bebopping right along. I'm like, man, these guys are full of shit. No problem. And then we hit the, pickup sticks in the bubblegum forest. I'm talking tree over tree over tree. Down, and we sneak in because we're thinking they're going to still be bedded in this one area. Nothing, right? Houdini, Kaiser Sorsay, they're gone. I'm like, well, fudge. Generally, panic is what kills you in a survival situation. And I always use the analogy of my wife wants she wants a gun that'll shoot down trees, that doesn't make noise and doesn't kick. And they just don't have that.
I'm South Cox, and you're listening to The Gritty Bowman.
Hey, this is Corey Jacobson, and you're listening to The Gritty Bowman.
We born and raised outdoors, and you've been listening to The Gritty Bowman.
There you go.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Jordan.
And you're watching
The Gritty Bowman.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Gritty Bowman podcast. I'm here on a beautiful Monday morning, and I'm feeling quite awake today, Aaron, even though I only slept a few hours last night. I am learning the art of sleeping faster.
It's an acquired skill. It's kind of like math, and you have to keep doing it to stay up on it as well. I found, although we had a heck of a weekend, so I'm a little pooped, and I have a giant blister on my toe.
I saw that.
We went full bore on the elevation gain, lost, and lightning storms, and Colton and I went ahead and went the distance when everybody else went home and hauled butt in and checked some trail cameras just to finish off the weekend strong. So I'm tired.
Tell folks about the weekend.
We got a buddy that drew a goat tag, so we backpacked in, did this huge loop, like bushwhacking it for the majority of the way, and found some goats and found some mule deer too. Went fishing. Like I was telling you on the phone, the altitude is the equalizer, right? It will make a fat man like me beat a skinny man because I'm at altitude all the time, and we finished up you crest like 13.2. We started at like 10.5 is where we hiked in from, and
dang,
and and it's bushwhacking, so you get up there and then you're like, okay, there's no more trees, right? So then it's just straight up. You can see in the photos, it's straight up a super grassy slope. Then it's straight down the other side and jumped in the lake, found some ptarmigan, and then went and checked the game cameras. Colton and I did, which it was pretty late when we got, because we did an overnighter, went to the truck, drove, kind of across the state a bit. And so it's a 4-hour drive, got to the trailhead, and we're like, let's just camp right here. It's 8, 9, 10, when it was 10 o'clock at night. So I like half aced, pitched my tarp, and had like 3 stakes holding it in due to huge lightning rainstorm blew through like 4 a.m. I woke up. I'm like, I should have done a better job at pitching this thing. I did not. So it was an interesting weekend.
I was just saying how I went to Utah to snowbird, hung out there at the Total Archery Challenge, and then while I was there, I went to Chris Spieler's gym. He's a CrossFit dude in Park City, and I did a CrossFit workout there, which consisted of a 5K run at altitude in like 100-degree weather. So it was brutal. And I was telling you, living a week basically at 8,000 feet, when I first got there, I'm like, I can't breathe, But then I worked out, hiked, stayed there for, about a week, a little over a week. And I just ran a 10K here, like a couple days after I got back. And I was an animal.
Thought you were going to get a headache from too much altitude oxygen.
I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Like I was breathing like it was a breeze, dude. So
it makes a significant difference. And I mean, if we all pull our shirts off at the trailhead, believe me, looking at me, you're not going to think that dude's finishing at the top first, right? I mean, I'm just not a opposing physical figure. And I'm not saying I always do. I mean, it's not like I can't be out hiked, but I do well. but it's because I'm always up high. You know what I mean? I'm always at altitude, so it's a huge difference. I try to train above 12,000 feet as much as I can.
Oh, dude, I was surprised though. I thought it would take a lot longer, and I think it does take a lot longer usually to adapt to elevation. But I felt a significant difference. Not sure what it is exactly. If it was just staying at that high altitude for a week and then coming back here to sea level, or what?
I probably who knows, but I mean, one of the reasons on this trip we were just on, which is what our podcast is about today, is trophy hunting, right?
Ah! We're gonna ruffle some feathers maybe.
Potentially, because we talk about it a bit on the side of the mountain. You and I talk about it, and then obviously there's other podcasts that people, dive into other aspects. And I guess what I'm getting at is the Gritty Bowman is obviously a good way to get on and get knowledge on how to kill an animal, right? How to do it yourself and get out there and get it done. The fitness, right? Nutrition, gear, training, all in the whole nine, right? For you to do it yourself. You can get on other podcasts, and you probably get on those to shoot the elk, not a elk, but you're getting on that to shoot the elk, find the guy to shoot the elk. And I've gotten a lot of emails. Basically, they're like, hey, sheep hunting isn't a life choice. It's not. You're not going to just all of a sudden wake up one day and say, I'm going to save $5,000 every year for 5 years, and I'm going to pay $25,000 for a sheep hunt because I've got 3 kids and I'm an electrician. And I'm going to say, honey, we didn't go to Disneyland because I'm going sheep hunting, and the kids, they're not getting braces because it's a life choice I've made. That's a crock to me. If you are wealthy enough and you have a great job, it's one thing. But the 9-to-5er that's a plumber, an electrician, whatever the case may be, it's not a life choice. And whoever says that is lying.
And I happen to know people that have a little bit higher paying jobs, but they equalize it with 8 or 9 kids. So, it's sort of like,
yeah. No,
it's all about income to expenses. And
yeah. Dude, exactly. I mean, not many wives are going to say, I don't want a new couch because you've made a life choice to go sheep hunting. And we're going to get blowback from this. I'm going off of my past experiences of getting to go on a lot of sheep hunts, and maybe once in a lifetime, yes, but you're not technically a sheep hunter if you've went on one sheep hunt, right? And I'm not technically a sheep hunter. I've been on a ton of sheep hunts, but I've only gotten to shoot, myself at a couple, right? So
you're the cameraman.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the toady. I mean, I've got good eyes. I take good photos, and I'm a good packer, right? I'm there for moral support, and so, which is fine with me. But you get into that big debate, and there's definitely a line kind of drawn now about, you hear some of the guys saying the meat movement. And no one should be ashamed to be a trophy hunter, and the meat movement's getting carried away. Now, for me, I don't care what you do. If you want to go out and shoot a cow and have food for the family, I'm all for it. If you have the money and you want to go shoot, pay to get on private land or for a guide, I'd be a hypocrite. I go on those hunts. I don't get to shoot. Again, I'm the toady, right? But I get to go on those hunts. But my thing is I've heard some quote unquote trophy hunters say, why do I have a bad rap and, whatever. Well, it's because you look down on guys. If you say, oh, my God, I'd never shoot a bull that small, I've got a pretty good idea why people might get mad at you, because that guy saved all he could to go hunt 7 days in Idaho for an elk, right? His wife's pissed off, ready to divorce him. Kids miss him. He's going to go. He's like, a raghorn walks by. He's right. He's going to shoot it. Not that many people can trophy hunt on public land.
It's not like meat hunters aren't snobs as well.
Yeah. Well, and the thing and that's a good point, is that let's not worry about what everyone else is doing and just you do you and I'll do me and let her go, right? Like, because you can save up and go on an Alaskan sheep hunt, right? At 12 grand, right? Anybody could save that not anybody, but most people can save that over a period of time and go on one hunt. I agree with that. You're not going to shoot your slam on a life choice. It ain't happening, right? Desert sheep at its cheapest is probably 60 grand. I can tell you now, and I've structured my life around the outdoors, and Jody loves me to death, and she lets me get away with way too much. I drop 60 grand on a sheep hunt. She'll cut off the hang down, right? It's not happening, right? And I've structured, and my kid, right? What does that say about my respect for my daughter? Hey, honey, you're not going to college. I've made a life choice, and it means I'm going to crap on you, right? You're not going to college because I want to shoot a desert bighorn. So looking at it in the sense of like, yes, also the guy, the do-it-yourself guy that says, oh, my God, you shot that 400-inch bull on private land. You suck, right? Go do it on public land. Biggest thing is just, can't we just all like, hey, you do your thing. You want to go hunt private land, that's fine. You want to be a meat hunter and the meat movement, all of it's good for hunting. I would have to say the prostitution of an animal probably could be looked down upon a bit more than a guy doing CrossFit and going out and shooting a cow for protein. If you compare that, if you have an anti-hunter over here and you have this guy that's done everything he can, trained his butt off, do it yourself, $40 for a tag, goes in, whacks a cow, whacks a raghorn, whacks a good bull, whatever, packs it out. And then you over here, you've got the guy that spent $15,000 on a guide, 20 grand on a trespass fee to shoot a big bull. That's basically the prostitution of an animal. You have put a dollar amount on that animal's head. You put a dollar amount on the guy to get you it. I think that is looked down upon a bit more than the do-it-yourself guy. And go ahead.
And I would completely agree. Not that it necessarily, I mean, it gets tricky though, because like that experience isn't unlike the premium draw tag I'm trying to get that takes 20, 25 years to get, or there's the flat out lotto, where you draw a tag.
What am I saying to you? For another $5,000, you can shoot that one.
Not exactly, no.
No, because I've been on premium, 18-point hunts where I've gotten to go. It's not like I'm like, hey, Brian, you give me, another $7,000, we'll go shoot that one. But if you're poor, you're stuck with these guys over here.
Yeah, but still, if you're on that 18-point draw, right, you're in Arizona, Unit 10, whatever, like my uncle guides a lot at High Point Outfitters. If he goes out, they're trying to help their client get the biggest bull. There's no, like, in general, on public land like that, there's not a trophy fee associated with it. It's just the goal is to get the biggest bull for the client as possible.
Which is, in all of this, even though I'm a crappy trophy hunter myself, you always want to shoot the most mature species, public or private, right? You always want to, you're striving for, especially if you're a trophy hunter. Tony, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He's a Kafaru guy. Tony Treich. Dude smashes monster elk. Colton this year's on a mission. We just got a bull on trail camera that's probably 370 today, right? He's on a mission. And Colton's, I just like to shoot stuff, right? It's fun for me to go out and hunt, the experience, right? But I'm all for trophy hunters, and I'm all for shooting the dominant species. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is to not get the podcast in trouble, if you go into a bar, and I've talked about this before, and you're picking up chicks every night, and with enough money, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so when you're talking about the prostitution of animals, and why does it matter? Because like you said a moment ago, I said, hey, you do you, I'll do me. And, there shouldn't be so much disdain. Disdain, animosity toward one another to these different camps, this meat hunter camp versus trophy hunter camp. And it's not like the guys that are out there trying to shoot the oldest animal or the one with the biggest horn are paying to go to, a safari in New Zealand or South Africa. It's not like they're not eating their meat as well, or that the meat is ever wasted. Trophy hunting isn't mutually exclusive to eating the meat. It's not like, well, I only trophy hunt and I waste all the meat, or I only meat hunt and I waste the horns. It's like all hunters salvage as much as possible. They might bring home a trophy as a memento of that experience, or as a symbol of what happened.
I'm not even getting into all that. I agree with everything you're saying. But what it's coming down to is, one, don't look down upon the other from either end of the spectrum. So,
well, here's my issue, though, and I'm about to get there. I'm about to drop one on you.
I'm ready.
The issue, though, is, and this is true, let's set aside like how you hunt, how I hunt, how the next guy hunt, and just look at non-hunters looking from the outside in. And there's a quote that I put on my Instagram page just the other day,
which is very, very true. That quote,
which I got from Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Journal, and it says social scientists have long demonstrated that public support for hunting will be based on whether it is perceived to be ethical and for legitimate purposes. And this is an article, in fact, in the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Journal, where they're talking about high fenced operations for like whitetail deer in the Midwest, where a dude just walks out there, pays the money, and goes and shoots some 300-inch whitetail freak, deer, and brings it home. And it's 100%, you're just buying horns, really, at the end of the day. They're completely fenced in. They're fed a crazy diet. They're injected with hormones. They've got steroids and all kinds of things in them to make them jacked. And so this completely how does the public perceive that, the non-hunting public?
Probably not very well. And the thing is I'm getting way more into this than I thought I would have because of you and the Gritty Bowman and my views on this, because I like to go hunting. I like to, take animals. I like to pack them out. I like to eat them. And I have been criticized by guys because I'm not a great trophy hunter. But if you take that out of it, right, like take me out of the equation and take you out of the equation. I see it day to day, man. We just packed through 50 backpackers, right? Camo packs. What are you doing? Well, we're backing in 9 miles deep. And I'm like, we're scouting for goats. Oh, you're going to shoot those things? They're so pretty. And I'm like, well, yeah, they're cool. And I'm like, but they don't allow hunting here on the weekends to keep the peace with you guys, the antis and the non-hunters. And I'm like, but, I made up a number, and I don't know if it's true, but I said usually every 100 goats, they allow about 6 tags to keep the numbers low. I said too many goats get around. They also kind of kick the crap out of the bighorn sheep. So not a big issue, Okay, so you look at it that, and I'm explaining. Plus, we're backpacked in. We're taking photos. We're fishing. We're cordial, right?
Right.
Then you take the guy, right? You got the big hang down, the flop it out. I'm the man. I'm looking for Shaquille O'Neal. I'm out there to shoot the biggest, baddest animal. Does not talk about conservation. Doesn't I'm like, I'm the man. I'm going to shoot the baddest animal on the planet. Okay, well, throw that in front of the people we just met. It's going to look bad. It's going to sound bad to the public. And for me at this point, as much as I'm getting involved in this, I would like to keep hunting for a long time. And if we continue to not promote hunting in what it is, the harvesting of an animal to feed your family, it is going to be harder and harder to defend when you have guys that basically I need to go and I just can't shoot a big elk, so I'm going to pay for one. Wrapped up around the horns and the inches. If you're a trophy hunter, I think it's great. I want to make sure that's clear. You're trying to shoot the most mature species. You buy landowner tags. I don't have an issue with any of that. But when it comes down to the fact of someone paying for more inches, paying for someone's services to help them, and not just to get an animal. That's all normal. But what I'm saying is there's a big difference between hiring your uncle, right? Guy drew a tag and he needs a little help. To me, there's a big difference from that to here's a picture of animal A. Animal A will cost you $3,000. Here's animal B. Animal B is going to cost you another $5,000. And animal C over here, animal C is $15,000. But you can pick whichever one you want because they're basically tame. That looks bad for hunting.
Right.
And it's the other thing too that I think is important that we talk about is we're talking about this. I am where I'm getting my info from and my general gist of how things are going from amount of comments we get.
Yeah.
Both from anti-hunters and dude, I post a bear up. I'm going to be talking to 20, 30 anti-hunters. The one thing I'm learning is the initial perception of a hunter and the actual reality of what we do, you and I and people like us is swayed. And you and I are converting or at least teaching some of these people specifically on Instagram of what we do, what hunting is about, and the whole 9 yards.
Right.
But I'm finding the more I talk to these people, some of them I've talked to them on the phone, where did you get the perception that I just leave the bear on the ground? Well, they're like, it's a big bear. Obviously, you're a trophy hunter. And I'm like, oh, if you only knew the criticism I get about trophy hunting. I'm like, no, man. I'm like, we eat it. I was like, where did you get that from? Well, antis have Google, and you Google. I'm learning it is very important, as you've told me many times, what you are presenting to the public. As simple as look at those guys from Rock House Motion. Dude, it's that Donnie Vincent's another one. He is presenting how it actually, you get out there, you're a hunter, you're trying to bring home some meat. Do you ever hear Donnie Vincent say, I'm going to shoot the biggest animal on the planet because I'm the baddest man around and not talk about the meat? No. But if you just sit here and talk about, I'm going to shoot the largest ram known to man, and I could give crap about the meat, that is perceived very poorly. And I've got people messaging me out on Instagram that I was talking to last night, all anti-hunters. And I'm like, hey, you need to really look at this. Like, you got leather boots and you got some fur, and I'm looking at your fridge on there, and you got some steak. You're just like me. I just do it myself.
Yeah.
That's very sellable. That is a very, 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 the light pops on for them. Like, you're right. Now, if I'm like, yeah, I've shot the slam. I'm awesome. I don't know what sheep tastes like, but I got the biggest horns. That's bad, man. It's just bad. There's no way around it.
Well, at the end of the day, Aaron, what you're saying, though, is something I've kind of said from the beginning is I'm not asking people to lie either. I'm asking them to check their motives. Like, why do you hunt? And am I casting judgment if you hunt just because you want big antlers and nothing else? I am a little. I am. I think you need to look at why you're hunting more.
Yeah, and you've brought up to me because I say things like, man, I like shooting stuff. And it can be perceived very badly because for me, you haven't come full circle until there's 120 pounds on your back and you're heading back to the truck. You just haven't experienced, to me, the full experience until you've done that. And as you're about to find out, and you already know, not find out, you've done it a ton, but meaning you're going to present to people what Colton and I, Frank and I, how we do it, right? And they're going to get to see we're pulling in fish, and then we cook them on the shore, and we eat them, right? I'm cutting out the tenderloins, and I'm cooking them there, and we take every bit of meat back. I mean, right now, that's all. I eat steak every day, right? That's it for me. Now, should I at times not shoot a 3.5-year-old bull and try a little harder to shoot a more mature species? Yes, without a doubt. But for me, I'm out there I want to get an animal. I want to get one, and it is, and I'm weird because I love going on trophy hunts. I like going on hunts where we're shooting the biggest animal we can. The weapon's not in my hand because I'm not very good at that, but I'm good at helping. There's nothing wrong with that. We're on public land looking for the biggest animal we possibly can, but we present it completely different than what I have seen other people, the way that other people present it.
Well, and just like this quote says, I mean, is that support for hunting, public support for hunting, will be based on whether it is perceived to be ethical and for legitimate purposes. And let's face it, hunting for food is perceived as a legitimate purpose. Hunting for sport is not. So the thing is, though, trophy hunting and sport, I mean, I try to shoot the oldest, most mature blacktail buck I can. Same for elk. I don't look at it as a shallow endeavor either, because there's so much more that goes around it. But it has to have context, or from the outside looking in, it looks like a shallow activity, one that's perceived by the public as illegitimate for why we're killing an animal. That doesn't justify our actions.
And 100% is what I'm getting on all the anti-comments and all the messages, is basically the perception of what you're doing. And the number one reason how I'm able to sway people is my photos. I'm not telling everybody to pick up a camera. I'm just saying, they check out the photos and they say, truly, you're a great ambassador. I never had any idea it was what you do is not what I had envisioned hunting was. You know what I mean? They have a bad outlook on it for whatever reason. And again, in the crap storm we are going to brew from this podcast, I'm not talking about when you have to hire a guide in Alaska. You have to. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to shoot a sheep, you got to. Not hiring, or territories, right? You can't go up there without getting one. That's all legal, legitimate. I understand that. Or Tiburon Island, right? I mean, yeah, you got to hire a guide to go shoot those animals. But what I'm talking about is the perception of what a hunter gives to the public at any time. So I'm not talking about, going out into the field and backpacking in and saying, I'm not shooting a bull unless it's over 350. Okay, that's great. But don't make that quite so public to everyone. There's nothing to be ashamed of with that. But I'm saying, if you are someone in the public's eye and anti-hunters, non-hunters are going to see that, don't make it to where you're just like, I'm not shooting a bull. I'm only going to shoot a bull unless it's 350 inches. Just your verbiage there alone. I'm going to try and harvest or shoot, kill, whatever, but the most mature bull I can. That sounds a lot different than an inch boundary, I'm finding.
Right. And I think you're right on there. And I'm not saying to completely. I'm all for education. So if you're going to talk about, hey, I'm trying to shoot this 380 bull that I've had my eye on for a really long time, blah, 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 I'm all for sharing that publicly with context.
Yeah, the context is the important part.
Yeah, you've got to take the time to explain your position so that that non-hunter is actually educated on what it is that you're actually doing. Because it's not wrong, or the motives aren't impure because you want to shoot the oldest animal in the group. Maybe you've killed 50 elk, and now it's like, man, if you walk out, you're so experienced that, gosh darn it, your hunt will be over on day one, and you want to hunt for 14 days. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
you've progressed. Well, it takes longer and it's harder to do, but manage that perception. Take the time to educate. Like you talked about photography. For me, the film, when we did the bear hunt just recently, I wanted people to connect to us as real people. I want them to, at the end, I want them to realize that killing an animal is part of life. We do it every day. And don't disconnect where your food comes from, and don't judge me because I kill an animal myself versus have someone pay someone else to do it for me. And there's that message that I wanted leave with the person. I could have ended the film so differently and not even brought that up, but it's an opportunity to put context around the activity we went on.
Well, and the other thing too, I think is important, is very important, is don't poo-poo on the person doing it for different reasons. Like, I'm friends with some of the more well-known guides, a few of them anyway, around in the world, right, or arguably. And it's not like we get in these large debates every time we talk. We don't even talk about this crap, other than the fact that they, obviously they're paid to get someone a big animal. But it's also in an area you have to hire a guide anyway. That's not what I'm talking about at all. But if you're a guy and you're just a stud and you shoot large stuff all the time, don't get wrapped up on the guys on Instagram posting selfies of working out that have only shot a couple does. They're doing it and they're happy, right?
Yeah,
Leave them alone. For God's sake. I mean, even I give crap to Luke Johnson, my little buddy. But I mean, I do anything for Luke. Luke's great.
Yeah.
I just give him crap because he needs to count coup at some point, right? He's going to have to drop something with the recurve. But that's more a personal level. But the thing is it's all good for hunting. Chris Rowe and I got into a huge debate about this the other day. And I'm like, Chris, you can't tell me that the perception of a guy or a guy going to the CrossFit gym every day. And I talk crap about CrossFitting all the time.
Right.
But CrossFitters are one of the greatest things for hunting you could ask for, because they're fit, right? They're going to a gym that probably doesn't have many hunters, and they are teaching those hunters, I'm getting fit to go hunting because I want to bring home protein because I'm living paleo. Okay, is that something that a trophy, or someone that's a Robbie Denning, Steve Alderman, Randy Omer, right? A guy that is truly just a monster when it comes to trophy hunting. Now, all three of those guys represent hunting very well, but I can see how some people are like, would you just shoot something? Stop working out. I don't want to see any more selfies. I can understand all of that, but it is good for hunting. Even though put your wiener back in your pants, don't worry about what they've shot. It is good for hunting. And then you have, in my case, like putting me back into it. I get to go shoot stuff. I get everywhere, right? And
Right.
Obviously, I am not biased. I get to go on tons of hunts all over the place where I'm the toady or the cameraman or the packer or the glasser or whatever. But what I do see with all of that is animosity at every tier, right?
Yeah.
You've got the guy that's hunting. What's the guy? Clay Hayes. He's like, I choose to make my own bow and basically hunt with a titanium spear naked, right? I have chosen, instead of using the most effective weapon like a rifle, instead of using that to shoot a giant animal, I have chosen to limit what's in my hand with a self-made bow and let the chips fall where they may with what I take, harvest, right?
Right.
And then you've got the guy over here. I can think of many names of guys I'd like to punch in the face that are like, trad guys are stupid. You shoot does, you suck, right? I'm going out and I'm taking a gun and I'm going to pay you for a private landowner tag and I'm going to shoot a monster. And down here, you lowly trad guys are horrible, right? And then I can go on and on with analogies. The point is for the love of and everything holy, is it that big of a deal we all hunt? Let's just try and get along. Because the guy with 5 kids, working, like I said, electrician, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably not going to have some of the different. He's made some choices in life, much like you and I. Got kids. Probably not going to be able to afford some things that other people might. So he's just going to go out there and he's trying to get it done with what he's got.
Yep. There's somebody, J.R. Young, commented on my post on Instagram. He said about this quote, he said, this message can't be overstated enough. When we have the support of the non-hunting community because we have communicated thoughtfully, respectfully, and passionately, the anti-hunting community no longer has an argument. When our words are full of insults, rhetoric, and demagoguery, we make the anti-hunters case for them. And I really think that we're at a stage now with without a barrier to entry into the market. Like no one's restricting our message. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, for the most part, YouTube, it's all free flowing. I can share my message openly with everyone without some media group preventing that from going out. So now's my chance to change perception, to manage perception about hunters. And if we get on there, and I can think of specific individuals and specific groups of hunters that mostly their pages are full of insults to anti-hunters and non-hunters alike, and graphic images and things like that, because they're like, I'm not apologizing for being a hunter. Get over it. It's legal. I can kill it any way I want.
Yeah.
And that sort of attitude really hurts us. Really hurts us.
I didn't realize how bad until I've gotten more in the public's eye. And I'm a redneck, right? I'm from Oregon, small town, right? Logging community. But what I've found is that being attached to the mountaineering community a little bit, or the backpacker community, being in the photography side of things, in the U.S. mostly. Now, well, it depends. I get a lot of hate mail from Mexico, or what I get. I don't know what it is. Spanish, right? I don't know. They must love bears down there, whatever the case may be. But it's not the 50s. You know, there's phones, there's tablets, there's computers, everything, right? And I know right now that we just posted photos of our scouting trip, and I already 5 minutes afterwards got questions on the gear we use, right? Think about for someone looking to target anti-hunting, right? It's fast, especially in the United States. In other places, Chinese, dude, my photos, I've put in all kinds of dead animals on the Sony A7R forum, right? When I was shooting Sony, they don't care. They're like, that's awesome, right? They're like, you get to eat those? That's cool. Americans, you're worthless, you're horrible, you're a bad person, right? Well, as fast as things travel, the simplest thing in the world, when you're in the public's eye, will travel just as fast to the anti-hunting and non-hunting community if they want it to, is my point. And so if someone, for example, you get an animal in the back of the truck, the true old school photo, right? The animal's in the back of the truck, you're sitting there on top of it, tongue's hanging out, blood everywhere. Yeah, I understand it's hunting and, you're doing your thing, but in this day and age, and there's no way around it, and I hate it, but it is true, you are looked at by millions, and those millions are going to be what tells us in the next few years, they're going to decide for us if we get to keep hunting. There's no way around that. And us fighting amongst ourselves, there's nothing good about it. It's just more animosity. And me, like I said, I go out and shoot it in pink underwear with an Atlatl. I don't care. Do it for your own reasons. Present it well, and don't begrudge or bash the trophy hunter or try and get along. And what kills me is, you get the guys that just bash the dudes that CrossFitters. And you get the guys that the unhealthier version of hunters that are like, you guys are all stupid. I shoot stuff out of the truck every year. Great. Yeah. Make sure and tell everyone, right? Like, let's just try and get along, so we can keep doing this for a long time.
There's one more quote that a guy wrote on here, and I'll ask you what you think about this. It's kind of a topic that comes up from time to time, and I'm careful about this, actually.
Uh-oh.
It says, the guy said, so long as we continue to use the term sport to describe what we do, both the anti and non-hunters will leverage off of this as to the perceived illegitimacy of our activities. What we do and how we are perceived has repercussions well beyond our own geographical borders. So, sport, calling hunting a sport. I hear Joe Rogan get on the podcast, his podcasts, a lot, and basically he's like, it's not really a sport. I don't call it a sport. And I've heard a few others, even Ranella and stuff, refer to it more as a lifestyle, or they call it something entirely different. I don't like the word sport to hunting. I just
Yeah.
when I think sport, I think it doesn't end in death. Sport is a game. It can be racing. It can be football. It can be skiing. It can be a lot of stuff. But when you deal with fishing and hunting and it results in the death of an animal, it's not really a sport anymore. Now you're dealing with real life.
Well, and I mean, the other day, with the other week with the bear, right? Remember, we had a bunch of whatever. I was like, hey, better get on this, So one of the guys said, I said, hey, dude, you obviously you're eating fish and chicken and turkey, so they don't have a soul. I'm like, he said, well, I only shoot the lesser. How did he put it? I only put the lesser evolved species. And I said, so you're like a white supremacist? I was like, you're just like a human supremacist? Like, if you're dumb, you can die? I was like, what do you mean? That makes no sense. I'm like, if you're going to tell me, I mean, where does it stop, right? If you're going to tell me a turkey is okay to kill, but then a deer is not okay to kill, obviously, I was trying to get to the point like a life's a life, right?
Right.
You shoot a raghorn, you shoot a cow, you shoot a giant bull, you shoot a chicken. You took one, right? Now, obviously, he was basically saying that humans are on the same level in his mind as a deer and an elk. You wouldn't just go shoot a human. So you shouldn't just go shoot a deer. And I was like, well, you don't eat humans, right? I mean, unless you're a cannibal, one. Two, we can do things like talk and, ride a skateboard. I mean, a lot of things we can do.
Right.
I'm like, okay, so in your mind, if you're a lesser species, chicken, fish, turkey, okay, you can eat those. Well, after 7 days going back and forth of me talking about a venison is no different than turkey, right? You're saying a deer has a higher level, so you can't shoot that. I'm like, you're eating meat, dude. There's no way around it. Well, after about 7 days of going back and forth, it made him think. And when it made him think, it made him research. When it had him research, he learned. Well, he learned what was first represented in the hunting community. And now the guy, I've talked to him on the phone twice, he was like, dude, you got some bad ones. And I was like, yeah. He goes, I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you that if you go do it the right way, the number one thing he brought up was high fenced hunts. The prostitution, he didn't call it that, but he goes, I don't understand how you can just pay to take a life. He's like, I don't get it. He's like, so you can just go pay a guy 10 grand and shoot something in a fence or go shoot something on a ranch? And I was like, yeah, you can, and we've had some pretty in-depth conversations. I'm like, yeah, if you want to become a hunter tomorrow and you want to shoot the largest elk on the planet, you could do it. I was like, you could. Go ahead.
But, that's, I mean, and I don't approve of it, right? It's not, to me, it cheapens that whole experience. But at the same time, it's not a whole lot different than going to the store and buying a side of beef.
No, but my point is to get to that depth of conversation with him.
Yeah.
He was judging our conversation. What he had in his pocket for battle was what he researched. And what he researched was like, okay, there's some, redneck flinging arrows at this dude in the fence. And then there was some kind of a Michigan high fence deal. And he's like, so how's this work? I'm like, well, dude, you go buy a tag, and you go out on the national forest or the wilderness and you try to shoot an animal. I guess it's that simple. He's like, but let me get this right. If I was a millionaire and I wanted to shoot all these animals, I could pay for all of them? And I was like, yeah, without a doubt. He's like, okay, so and he repeated it back to me. He's like, so if I want to go shoot a grizzly, I can just go buy one? I was like, kind of, yeah. And I said, but, and I brought up later on.
I mean, he's right, but what can money not buy you?
Well, I think my point when we finally finished.
If I wanted you dead and I had enough money, I could pay someone to do it.
Right, but it was the interpretation he had of all hunters was that we all do it that way. Oh. And I was like, well, dude, if you want the best steak in town, it's going to cost you like $80 a pound or something. If you want a crappy steak, go to Arby's or whatever. I was like, it's no different. I'm like, you guys, and I stole it from Rogan. I'm like, you're just killing it with your checkbook. Yeah. You know, I'm killing mine with a bow, and some guys kill theirs with a gun. So try to get them back kind of to planet Earth. It was hugely important for him or for our conversation. What he came to battle with was what he Googled. And so when you Google, for example, if you Google something that's pro hunting and it's informational, okay, packing out, like, I don't know, how to debone an animal or whatever, and then he's reading through the comments and our dumb asses are arguing with each other. Well, that's not good, right? Like, I mean, he's like, man, you guys can't get along, can you? I was like, yeah, you know, it's like anything, right? I mean, it is life. We're humans, whatever. And anyway, he's converted now. He's going to actually try and go shoot a turkey because that's what he eats. But yeah, it was cool. But that was 7 days, and we ended up talking on the phone, which was an interesting deal. And he's just like my wife was.
Yeah.
No idea.
I think, back to the perception, I think there's other terms we can use other than calling it a sport.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that go away because I do think as long as we put that term to it, it kind of cheapens the activity. Like it kind of dismisses it as real life.
Right. Well, and I'm having trouble wrapping my redneck brain around a lot of this too, because I just want to go out and go hunting. But the thing is if you are go back into history of time, slavery, right? Slavery was A-OK not that long ago. The world was also flat at one time and many other things, but we've evolved, right? We're changed, we adapted. And that doesn't mean you're giving up your standpoint on hunting to bend a little bit to cater to anti-hunters, which I hate doing. Yes. Like I want to just go hunting and it's legal and I should be able to just go. But there's also, the world is changing, and even me, again, I have to change with it. So if I need to present myself a little differently, teach a little bit better, and help people understand to keep hunting going, I'm going to have to do it, because I don't want to be the last guy without a chair at the end of all this saying, man, hunting was so cool. I wish I could still do it. Now I'm just hunting with a camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's try and all get along for one. Good Lord. For 1, 2, and 3. But yeah, I think we pretty well beat the dead horse to death.
Yeah. I mean, it's not something I like to have to do either. That whole, I really relate to, never apologize for being a hunter kind of statement. At the same time, I think we can't just arrogantly assume that we don't need to manage perception. So yeah. Perception is reality. All right, dude. Well, I'm going to go. I got other crap to do today. Stay gritty, Aaron.
I will do my best.
All right. Okay, gritty friends. I hope you enjoyed that podcast. If you did, please take a moment to leave us a review on iTunes, Podbean, or Stitcher. We love reading your reviews. And connect with us on social media if you're on there. Look us up on Facebook and Instagram, and take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can receive notifications when we upload new videos. We've got a sweet deal with Mountain Ops. You get 20% off on all Mountain Ops supplements, combo packs, and apparel when you type in the word gritty at checkout. All right, friends, let me leave you with one other quote from Theodore Roosevelt, who said, "It behooves every man to remember that the work of the critic is of altogether secondary importance, and that, in the end, progress is accomplished by the man who does things." We all have a choice. We can be people who do things or people who criticize the work of others. It's pretty simple, really. Get out there and do your thing. Good luck on your hunts, and stay gritty.
This is Ty Stubblefield, and you're listening to The Gritty Bowman.
Gritty Bowman.